My parents have always been into cars, my family. We've traveled the world. We've met interesting people. We've had a lot of stories. I met some of my best friends through cars. I met my fiance through cars, actually. And, it's just a huge integral part of our lives. And we really enjoy what we do.
Porsche Files, auto enthusiasts, welcome to Marc Bixen Live. A video and audio podcast about Porsches, lifestyles, and all things motorsports. Hosted by Porsche expert, owner of Los Angeles' world-renowned Porsche repair shop, Redline Service. So let's kick back, shift gears, and get to the action. Here's your host, Marc Bixen.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of Marc Bixen Live. Today, we're starting a new series called the Collector's Series. In the Collector's Series, we're going to be joining some of our great friends and clients and viewing their personal car collections. These are collections that, most people will never get a chance to see. Our first guest, Jay Wiener.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Welcome as our first collector guest. I think the thing I like most about Jay is he's got an incredible knowledge of automobiles from Italy, Germany, France, Russia, U.S. You got a question about any car anywhere you've seen, and Jay can probably answer your question off the top of his head, zero research. So how did you get into car collecting? Was this something that back in school you just loved cars? Was your dad a car guy?
Well, cars are a really big part of my life. Believe it or not, my parents met and got married because of cars. My mother was driving a 62 Chevy down Fairfax Avenue in West Hollywood. A little for sale sign on the back, because back then you could do that and put up your phone number and stuff like that. And my father, being a car dealer in Los Angeles since the early 60s, saw her and said, hey, I want to buy that. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Lo and behold, here I am today. Of course, if you ask my mother, she'd say I should have kept driving, but we'll save that for another time. My parents have always been into cars, my family. We've traveled the world. We've met interesting people. We've had a lot of stories. I met some of my best friends through cars. I met my fiance through cars, actually. It's just a huge integral part of our lives, and we really enjoy what we do.
And when you were growing up, how many cars did your dad have? I mean, did he have 2 or 3 cars, and then you took this to another level, or was your dad already a collector, quote unquote, at that point?
It depends. I mean, there was always something weird that showed up at the house. He had his everyday car, and my mother had an everyday car. We always had a station wagon for the dogs to go to soccer practice, kid hauler, you name it, we had it. It was always a big emphasis on Mercedes. We always had a bunch of 64, 5, and 6 Mustangs, Rolls Royces, Ferraris, and, a couple Porsches here and there. Never knew what was going to come through that door. But it was always kind of fun. So needless to say, I learned how to drive stick shift at a very young age because I had to, and never turned back.
Okay. Well, I kind of know the feeling. When I was sharing my building in Long Beach, everybody asked why you drive all the way to Long Beach every day. And I'd always tell them because I never knew what surprise was going to be in the garage when I got there. So, and let's just take today for an example. Approximately how many cars are in your collection at this time?
It's at least 25. We also have expanded the motorcycles now, too.
And I guess we'll see some of those while we're over at your place?
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, I have not seen any motorcycles over there. So this is the two-wheel J is something new to me also. You learn something new when you put someone in front of a microphone.
Yeah, you and me both.
So today we're going to take a spin over to Jay's facility. Jay has some great micro cars. Jay has a great collection of Iron Curtain. We'll call them Iron Curtain cars?
Communist era.
Communist era cars. And, of course, his great collection of Porsches. Jay, you've been a client here at Redline, and we do take care of your Porsches. You find the best people to work on all of your cars. And I know with your collection, sometimes that could be a bit difficult.
Challenging to say the least.
So just examples of, some of the vehicles that you're about to see today. Jay has a Gaz 69A, which is basically a communist era copy of a Jeep. And Jay, you describe it as?
You take a Willis Jeep leftover surplus from World War II or so, you reverse engineer it, you make it worse, more unreliable, more uncomfortable, and voila, the pride of Soviet Russia.
A Gaz.
A Gaz.
Okay.
Uaz, I think it's pronounced, but yeah.
We're looking forward to that. I know you have a nice classic white with blue stripe GT350. Your father loves the Chryslers. So Chryslers with what they call a waterfall grill. So you'll waterfall?
Yeah. 34 only.
1934 only. Jay's dad makes sure that there's one or two of those in the collection at all times. Usually black, the color of that era. I guess without further ado, we're going to move on over to Jay's place. Perhaps before we go over to Jay's place, what do you think, Jay? Do we need to do a Scotch segment?
I'll drink to that.
You'll drink to that. Well, I think it's time for me to move on out and go grab us a couple of glasses, and we're going to come back with the Marc Bixen Live Scotch segment. Today we are drinking an absolutely beautiful Scotch, Belvini Tun 1509. Well, what better to drink while Jay is here than a bottle that Jay brought to us? So, beautiful, beautiful dark coloring on this. Of course, as with all Belvinis, this was approved by Dave Stewart. And this isn't Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics, but Dave does know his whiskeys. So here we go. Again, got to have your Porsche ice cubes.
And it is 5 o'clock somewhere.
Look at that. Jay? Oh, beautiful bouquet.
Yeah, right? That's good and full-bodied.
So, to Keith Martin and Sports Car Market, cheers. Cheers, Jay.
Cheers. That's smooth.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Ton of body, really filling flavor.
Smooth, opened, little oaky, very nice.
So, if you want to get a little bit more eclectic than, say, the MACALLAN, try a nice high-end Belvini. And don't forget the automotive ice cubes. Wow, thank you, Jay. You do have very nice taste. Now, onto the collection. This is a working shop. This is not just a garage where beautiful cars that have been restored are stored. Actual work goes on here, preserving these cars and getting them ready for, what, the next owner? Back in the 50s, there was a very famous painter pinstriper named Dean Jeffries. And Dean Jeffries worked for George Barris doing all of his custom paint. And then in the month of May, Dean Jeffries would go down to Indianapolis and actually paint the names of the drivers and the crew members on the side of the car for the Indy 500s and things. And he'd paint the cars also, do the pinstriping and things. He was always known as a great painter, but he also knew he could be a very good metal man. And so he bought this car new, 4-cam 356 coupe. And we all know the story of 356 Outlaws, the Emery family, Rod Emery, his dad Gary Emery, and they make these absolutely beautiful what they call Emery Outlaws. And what an outlaw is taking a specific older car and modifying it with newer parts, higher performance parts, little body changes that are just very nice, cute changes. Well, back in the 50s, Dean Jeffries, to show his metalwork, purchased this car and started changing it. So on the front, he Frenched in the lights, changed the whole nose of the car, took the bumpers off, took off the hood holder and the emblem. And of course, we have it parked next to a Speedster, so you can get an idea of what the car looked like originally, with the headlights, the bumper, the overrider, the Porsche hood handle, etc. And so he did this with the front of the car. And then in the rear of the car, he also removed the bumpers and he changed the tail lights. You know, you can't even tell it wasn't factory original. On the earlier Porsches prior to 1962, they used a single grill engine lid, and then everybody realized they needed more cooling, so they went to a twin grill. Dean Jeffries' solution was to actually widen and make like an air vent, and then he created his own grill for it. Additionally, because he was a fan of the 300s, he put in 300 SL type air vents in the top of the car. On the rocker panels, metal turn. On the A-pillars, all hand metal turned. The dashboard is as he did it back in the 50s. He padded the rocker covers. He chromed the air housing on the car. He chromed the generator pulleys and the air filter housings, as well as doing a metal turn firewall and side members on the car. And, you know, this became very fashionable in the 60s and 70s, but Dean Jeffries was the first to do this. This car had a very unusual history in that it was sold at one time to a gentleman who used it for a getaway car in a bank robbery in Florida. So the car was confiscated, etc. At one time, this car was golden color. It was the 1956 Rod and Custom magazine cover car. You are looking at the first Outlaw ever built. What an amazing car.
There was this little car known as the Little Bastard. Some of you guys have heard of it. So James Dean picked up a white 55 Pre-A Speedster that he got his feet wet into racing. And he was really enjoying that. When he found out that there was a faster model, a newer model known as the Type 550, aka the 550 Spider, he went ahead, he traded in his Speedster, got the Spider, ultimately the car that he died in, sadly. Being a race car driver at the time, you needed to have certain emblems, if you will, recognizable traits of your car so they know it was you. He brought it to none other than Dean Jeffries to paint the Little Bastard and put the numbers on it. Having seen all that, Dean got excited, loved the 4Cam, loved Porsches, and then went ahead and got his own, which is right here today. This one still exists. Sadly, James Dean's 550 Spider is one of the greatest mysteries of all time. It does not exist, or not at the current moment.
As you may have noticed in the background while we were shooting the Dean Jeffries car, there's a beautiful 750 Abarth Fiat here, a record Monza model.
Yeah, not the double bubble.
And a little bit more aero without the double bubble on it. And Jay, tell us the story of this car and its race history up till this point. And
this raced extensively through the late 70s, early 80s, 90s, and early 2000s until the previous owner was no longer allowed to compete.
He was as old as the car?
Yeah, he may have been a little older than the car. Full race motor in here right now. We got the original motor sitting back there. If you can imagine, this used to be the state-of-the-art race car at the days. In fact, this would race against the Speedsters and the 550s in the same category. Very small, easy to maneuver, lots of fun. More fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow.
And is this the original color, the yellow, or do we know
sadly,
what original was?
Originally it was black.
Okay.
Maybe one day we'll put it back to black.
Well, it's easier to find on the track when it's yellow.
Right.
So,
especially if it's upside down.
No, we always try to put little things like that. One time I built a 914 race car, and we did the B pillars and the mirrors in fluorescent orange, international orange, so it would be easier to pick out on the track. So yeah, it's always makes it easier for your friends and spectators when they show up if the car has something distinctive about it. So, oh my God, if the car could tell stories, right?
Right, yeah.
So, what a beautiful car. Thank you for showing us this one.
Absolutely.
So, Jay, can you explain to me who robbed the Louvre? What is this and why is it here?
It's from the Baroque period, after Peter Paul Rubin, after not as if he painted it, but one of his students painted it. If it was the original, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. Being a print, who knows? But just thought it kind of really tied the room together. Does it not?
Yes. Cars and naked women.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move to the car that Jay refers to as the Holy Grail. There's a vehicle that, well, if some of you haven't seen it, you may ID it from an old James Bond movie or something from the Bahamas, but a vehicle called a Mini Moke, which is kind of a beach car with wicker chairs and just fun little runabout for your cute little beach towns. And the Holy Grail of Mini Mokes would be this Austin right here. So Jay, give us a lowdown on this car.
Well, actually, the Jolly car referred to Happy, or the little beach cars, like Mark said, with the wicker seats, no doors, easy in, easy out, with all the people that would have them in the Mediterranean, also known as Mediterranean buggies. But the first thing you do, you pull into port, you take off your little car, you hop in your swim trunks, wet, drive to town, pick up liquor, have some fun, do whatever you got to do, and go back to the boat in style. The most common one everybody's mainly heard of is the Fiat. There's the Fiat 500, which is the most common. That's 2 cylinders. There's a Fiat 600, which is a little larger engine, 600 cc's, also 2 cylinders, followed by the Renault Jolly, which we just had, but it's relocated to Palm Springs. It's 4 cylinders, liquid cooled, and then the rarest of them all was the Mini Jolly, which actually never was sold in Europe. They were only distributed to the American BMC, British Motor Car Corporation cars, to the dealerships in North America. And they said that you have to take the car, you cannot buy it, you cannot sell it, you need to drive it around town, park it, let people see it, get excited, and then go to the dealerships and try to buy some of the cars. And that's what they did. This is the lowest mileage, most original one on the planet. There were a total of 12 built, including 1 prototype. The prototype still exists. It was found in a junkyard in Greece. There's 1 right-hand drive one for the royal family, and the rest were other various Art Deco kind of cute colors. As I mentioned, this is all original, and it really, really makes everybody smile, as you can see.
So this was the 1950s version of the golf cart.
Pretty much, yeah. This one's a 61 or a 62, and then the Moke was afterwards. And now they're the electric Moke, which everybody has.
Very cool. Original Lucas headlight bulbs.
Prince of Darkness.
Wow. Did they ever work?
Did they ever work? Yeah, they're on dim.
Dim? So you haven't tried off and flicker yet?
Right.
Just dim?
Right, just dim.
Okay. All right. 6 volt?
12 volt.
12 volt.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Early
Okay.
12 volt. Actually, fast enough to go on the freeway. I've done it once. Probably don't know if I do it again, but it does get up and go.
Probably one of the first cars with a black backside mirror.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, everything had silver rear view mirrors. Look at this rear view mirror, original to the car.
This is Trico.
Wow. Of course, you know, you can also just throw a little GT350 Shelby power in here.
This is an original one, actually built in Venice, car number 81, known as a 2-digit car. Only thing rare is the 1-digit car, and they are out there. Unique porthole hood. This one actually is running the downdrop Weber setup, which it was raced in Canada with. The American cars had the Holly 4-barrel 715 Le Mans, This is fitted with this. We do have the original Holly as well, but we prefer to run it like this.
I actually worked on a number of these back in the late 80s with Webers on them because of my Weber background from the Ferrari days.
289 small block.
The
very
faster
famous race
car.
engine, yeah.
Yep. 289s were better race cars than the 427s because the engine's smaller and sat lower in the car, so it was a better handling car. Love the strut brace, early strut brace. Everybody needs a strut brace today. Carroll knew what they were all about back then.
It's actually the Monte Carlo bar. It's supposed to be straight, but we had to get a different one for the carburetor
To get around
setup.
carburetors?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a real screamer. All the 65s were finished in Wimbledon white, so now has the optional Le Mans stripes on there. As Mark said, the 289s had a very successful racing career. The 427s were later and kind of phased out at that point. Ford had already moved on from racing.
Detroit locker rear end on this?
Detroit locker rear end.
Locker?
Somebody's
Okay.
working on a tool shed, a tin shed behind it. Clink, 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 clack. And there
Yep.
it goes.
Yeah, a friend of mine bought one of these with a Drawley motor in it.
Dave Drawley.
And the first time he took it around a turn and that rear end locked up, he immediately called me and said, I think I broke something. I said, let's go for a drive. He said, no, that's just your rear end locking up. You've got enough power. So he was very happy to hear he didn't break something on the first day. But it is a hell of a sound when that rear end locks.
Yeah, Dave Drawley, the best 289 engine builder ever, at his house in front of Willow Springs when you pull in.
He used to do all the sprint car motors, and actually that's where Dwayne DeMent is now with his Porsche driving school. And probably have Dwayne on the show one day because Rick Knoop, previous guest on our show, does instruct with them. And anybody needs some high performance driving instruction and they're in the Willow Springs area, check those guys out. They're very good. They run a number of classes a month. So they do an all girls school, and that's in the old Dave Drawley facility at Willow Springs. A lot of history there. Like all great Shelbys, Mr. Shelby himself did autograph this car in the rear. And as Jay said, cars are probably more valuable that haven't been autographed since most of them have been autographed. Cute joke from a Shelby owner.
This is state-of-the-art racing equipment, circa the late 60s. Also notice a nice plastic chair to go racing in at. Some of these were hitting 170, 180 miles an hour back then, the R models.
My father had a similar
With nice
seatbelt.
nothing to keep it here.
Well, your body keeps it there. The Porsches also, they had the seat retainer on the passenger side, but not on the driver's side.
Center tack, oil pressure. Goes like hell.
Yeah, my father had similar seat belts in his Speedster that he raced. He bought them at a military surplus store. Same latch and buckle design that companies like Simpson still make today. Another beautiful car in the collection. Everybody out there knows the name Audi. A lot of people aren't aware that Audi is an acronym. It actually stands for Auto Union Deutsch Industries. And prior to Audi, there was Auto Union. So here we have an original Auto Union DKW from 1935. Jay, give us a description of this beautiful vehicle.
Well, actually, each ring represents one of the different brands. So there was Porsche, Auto Union, DKW, and oh man, I can't remember the last one right now. Well, anyway, it's up there. But each ring stands for a separate brand that was all fused together to create the Auto Union. DKW, actually the D stands for Dampf, or steam in German. DKW originally made steam engines. They later on, as they started making smaller cars, this is powered by a two-stroke motorcycle engine. Very affordable car at the time, get from point A to point B. Basically holds an entire family. They later renamed it for the Deutsch Kinderwagen. Not really, but that's how people express it for later on. Little tidbit of useless information. This has been fully restored. It was found in Germany, brought to the States, at which point about 10-year restoration was taken to make it the way it is today, or as it was when sold new.
So the rings were Audi, DKW, Porsche, that's with an H, not Porsche, but Porsche, and a company called Wanderer, who later became Auto Union. So those are the 4 rings of the Audi emblem of today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Apple. Thank you, Google. So we may have a lot of information in our heads, but we don't have everything all the time.
2-stroke motorcycle engine.
So I have a 2-stroke, 2-cylinder, water-cooled. Everything is in the front. Your heating system off of the exhaust. Very interesting place for the temperature switch. Obviously 2 cylinders, gas tank, air filter assembly with carburetor underneath. This is the shift linkage, and the car is front-wheel drive, 1935. It's a beautiful radiator cap, very period different.
Right.
Because a lot of them, they just had the temperature. They had the actual thermometer on top at that time.
Being a entry-level car, if you will, all the creature comforts aren't exactly there. Not like buying a Porsche or a Mercedes, for example.
And these are indicators, so you know your headlights are on. And this is a beautifully restored car. I mean, wow. Looks like we could take it out and drive it to dinner tonight.
Before Volkswagen had it, Commer, or Commer, depending where in the world you are, manufactured these vans. The engine's in the front, you sit on top of it. This one actually is a camper van. As you can see, there's a pop top that goes up, and a full living quarters, kitchenette rather, sink, and everything lays down to a bed. Commer eventually got absorbed by Sunbeam, who I think then got absorbed by BMC, and then that was kind of the end of it. Volkswagen then took the idea, ran with it, and we have now today the Westfalia, probably the most successful camping vehicle of all times.
So you're looking at the predecessor of the Westfalia, the actual vehicle that gave Volkswagen the idea for a pop top. Just think about the nicest Westfalia, handcrafted wood interior, and your imagination will take you to the inside of this vehicle. It really is very cool. Just another oddity, rarity in the Wiener collection. We have a beautiful 1961 Porsche Roadster. Dealer turn.
We also made the twin grill Roadster, which is the same exact car, but obviously with the second grille, making it a little rarer and more desirable. Super 90 motor, all numbers matching, restored to original factory ordered from Max Hoffman in New York with blue interior.
Wow.
Point Pleasant, New Jersey.
Yes, used to go to the beach in Point Pleasant. For those of you who don't know that I'm actually a Jersey boy in the beginning. Wow, this is just a beautiful car, and your restoration was done?
Restoration was done about 15 years ago. Classic showcase, and I think it's Oceanside. This is obviously the Type 2 or the B model Speedster, hence the comfortable seats, a little taller windshield, a little more usable. The windshield still comes off. Roll-up windows, all the creature comforts of almost a luxury car while still being quite sporty to go out and go racing. Obviously not as iconic as the Speedster, but a lot of fun nonetheless.
It's interesting that you're running it without the hubcaps, the wheel covers, because my father's 59 Roadster, 59 Convertible D, which was the predecessor to the Roadster, my father also ran without the wheel covers. And my father's car still exists today. It's owned by the same gentleman my father sold it to in 1969, and he still runs it without the wheel covers on it. So we're in touch from time to time.
Well, truth be told, the wheel covers are off because these are 5 date-coded Lemurs wheels that my father's very proud of, so therefore he wants
Show the date coding?
Date coding. We're not going to race it yet.
So it wouldn't fall
Don't
off.
fall off of the track.
And again, period correct carburetors, correct air filters. I mean, this is the way it should look, ladies and gentlemen. We have an absolutely cool classic Vasek Polak license plate frame, period correct license plate, California yellow plate. I know those of you elsewhere love the old California plates. We actually get to use them here. On the turn signal lenses and brake light lenses, earlier cars were what they called beehive, round ones.
We call this great smiles per mile. The more you drive it, the more you smile. And everybody gives it a thumbs up too. Not the middle finger, like when you drive the Ferraris, but that's okay.
And of course, we can tell these are drivers because when we move them, there's a couple of oil spots underneath, and so that proves that there's oil in it. We've switched over, we've gone Ruski. So, as we discussed in the opening of the show, this is the Guaz or Gaz or Guaz 69A. We've got a, 4-cylinder engine, 3-speed manual transmission, a beautiful copy of a Bosch voltage regulator and a Bosch coil, because we know that back then you copied what the other people had already proven. Here's our Gaz Model 69, serial number 5809, CCCP. If anybody can translate this for us, hey, give us a translation. We'll talk about it on a future episode. And you know how to get us at WTFMarcBixenLive.com. This radiator looks like it's seen better days. It looks like it's been straightened out a few times.
Yeah. Military surplus.
The veins open and close?
I don't think so.
But they're supposed to. That's, I believe that is.
Oh, yeah. You can.
Yeah, they're like louvers so that you can close it on a cold day, and it's...
Never gets cold enough out here for that.
The original Venetian blinds. Headlight covers, tow hooks. Obviously, in a starter failure, you can put a hand crank in this. Am I correct?
Yep.
Keep your spare rifle up here.
This is all original, if you can believe it, including the Shelby shovel, trailer hitch, lights, and of course, in black and white, or black and black, made in USSR.
You even have taillight lens covers. These are darker lights for wartime, lighter lights for peacetime. Of course, even back then, they knew glass was better than plastic, but no more modern plastic rear windows. A couple of nice bench seats, probably get 6 soldiers in the back and 2 people up front. Jay, what are the extra metal rods for on the floor?
They actually they added support for
they're more
here, yeah.
Supports?
So it goes in the edge, but
Okay.
it starts to tear the canvas a little bit, so we're trying to preserve it.
You're not going to see another one of these in the United States. So thank you for showing this to our viewers, Jay.
Absolutely.
Very, very cool. So you have a high and low transaxle in it? High gear, low gear?
Yeah, 4-wheel drive actually, yeah. High and low.
We stick a snowplow on this, it'll be a perfect vehicle for Los Angeles.
Right? Push them out of the way. You know, it's interesting because it's reverse, first, second, third. It'll go about 45, maybe 50 miles an hour. You're not supposed to go on fast when you're fighting the war. It's a 39 Peugeot 100cc single-cylinder motor, all original.
2-stroke.
2-stroke, yes, got to mix the oil and the gas just right. It's been sitting in the Indy Motor Speedway Museum as a fixture since the mid to late 50s. As you see, the Indiana plate on it still says 57. It has not run since. This is the most it's been moved in all these years, roughly 70 years. We are definitely intent on getting it back on the road and having some fun. Everything you see here gets driven, enjoyed. These aren't garage queens. We take them out, we drive them hard, we do donuts, we have fun, we get them dirty, we take them out for everybody to see instead of just socking them away.
So what do you think? We put a pad on the back and we'll take this thing and ride it back to Indy?
Absolutely.
You and me, pair of goggles on. I mean, it's a hardtail. We don't have to worry about collapsing the rear suspension. Springer front end. Very cool. They've thought of everything on this bike. They even have, if you come over here and take a look on the chain guard, a hand tire pump. So if you have a puncture, take care of your own flat, and you're on the road again.
Stuart Warner, USA. The speedometer,
The original was a Stuart. It looks like a bicycle speedometer.
I don't know. Waiting to hear back from Stuart Warner. Yeah, right there.
Perfect. Fits
Right?
French fashion
Yeah.
all over. It's got the Art Deco look. So again, we want to thank our first collector guest, Jay Wiener. His beautiful collection. Really had a good time coming over here and having Jay explain the cars to us. We hope that everybody out there enjoyed our show. We're going to be doing a whole bunch more. Jay, again, thanks a lot. Thank you for being a Redline client, and thank you for showing these beautiful cars that your knowledge is unequaled. So thank you. I learned from you.
Hey, how about that?
Today's tech tip is going to involve the new way of fixing flat tires on cars, which is a flat fix liquid that seals the puncture in the tire. Obviously, this doesn't work if you have a sidewall blowout or a major catastrophic tire failure, but you come out of your hotel in the morning, your friend's house, you walk out to your beautiful car, and we have a flat tire. So, go around to the front of on Porsches, the front trunk of the car, and we have the Porsche flat fix kit. Open that up. Inside the kit we have a bottle of tire sealant, a small tire inflation nozzle, and then a little bag that comes with a valve stem remover, a new valve stem, and a little reminder sticker. As we've mentioned before, when you're using a space saver or patch tire, keep your speed under 80K or 50 miles an hour until you have a proper repair done. Inside the Porsche booklet shows you how to do the repair. First thing we do is take the cap off, take our valve stem tool, and remove the valve stem from the tire. And if there's any residual pressure still in the tire, it'll come out as you take the valve stem out of the tire. So you take your tire sealant and then shake this up really well. Mix it up really good. By the way, always check there's an expiration date on the bottom because you want to make sure you always have fresh tire sealant in your car. What you want to do now is attach the hose. And then you want to make sure that the location with the puncture is at the lowest point on the tire. So you'll roll the car so that the screw hole or whatever's punctured your tire is now at the bottom. So when you put the liquid in, it accumulates and puddles in the area of the puncture. So with the valve stem out of the car, take the tube, put it on your valve stem, and squeeze the liquid in until you've put the whole can in the tire. Squeeze it a few times. Make sure that you've gotten the majority of that in the car. Now take your new valve stem, place it in, and tighten it using the supply tool. And then at this point, we're going to take the compressor supplied with the car, connect the compressor, plug it into the cigarette lighter. Make sure, as they show in the instructions, that you only run the compressor for a specified amount of time, stopping approximately every 10 minutes to let the compressor cool until you have the correct amount of tire pressure. So instead of using the car supplied compressor, since we are in the shop setting here, we're going to use some compressed nitrogen to fill this up, compressed air, because it is quite a bit faster for the purposes of our video. So what you're going to do is then inflate the car to the proper tire pressure. And then once you have your proper tire pressure, which we'll check with the gauge, and there is a gauge on the Porsche supplied tire pumps, pressure pumps. So once you get it up to the tire pressure, correct pressure, you then want to drive the car as soon as possible, immediately, for approximately 10 minutes. And what this does is it gets the fluid distributed throughout the tire without it accumulating in one area and causing a balance problem. So you don't want to do this, let's say, in the evening and leave the car parked for the evening. You want to do this just prior to driving. Then take it out, drive it around for about 10 minutes, paying attention to how the car feels and everything's good. At that point, pull over, recheck your tire pressure, and if everything is good, then proceed to a proper facility to have the tire repaired, whether that be your dealer, a local tire store, or whatever. Have a proper repair done, which means taking the tire off, patching it from the inside, or replacing it as opposed to using a plug. Plug is a temporary repair. And then go on with your happy motoring. So that's our tech tip today from Redline Service and Marc Bixen Live.